That's just a terrible take, personally.
We got shellacked.
How's it going, everyone? Happy Wednesday, and thank you for tuning in to the starting lineup. This is our first show back in the studio in Tucson ever since spring break, and it's been a while, and I'm just so happy to be here with you guys. I got Elias Bonilla and Alex Kastner, some of the best in the industry with me here tonight. Guys, how we doing tonight? How was spring break?
I'm doing great, Jacob. I appreciate that intro. I mean, you're the best one I've ever seen. So I mean,
Game respects game.
That's a lot of praise. But you know, my spring break was pretty good. It's great to be back. I missed all you guys, so super excited to get started tonight.
And you, Elias, how have you been?
I share the same sentiment with Alex. It's amazing to be back. I'm super excited for the show. Spring break was very fun, very relaxing, and I'm ready to break down some sports.
I love to hear it. I had the opportunity to get out of this heat that we're going through, and I got to go see some family up in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon. And being back here, whew, yeah, I've been needing to put on that Blistex. My lips, they've been chapped. I need more water, but you know, all jokes aside, it's so great to be back here on campus.
It is.
And
It really is.
I want to give you guys a personal shout out. You guys have been killing it with NCAA March Madness content. And if you guys don't know what we're talking about, these two on more than one occasion actually broke down the NCAA tournament, and we'll have more of that on our Instagram and later on in the show. So shout out to you guys. It was phenomenal coverage.
Appreciate it, Jacob.
Thank you.
Right now, we're going to hop into, you know what it is. It's Arizona Roundtable. It's the opportunity where we get to go over all the action on campus where Arizona Wildcats are competing. And from the get-go, we got to talk about Arizona men's baseball. This team has been off to a rough start. Right now, currently, they're 9-15. They're under 40% in their wins, losses, and it has not been a great start for this team. They are right now 2-4 in the conference, and that is not the expectation that this team originally had heading into the season. Elias, I want to swing it to you. Why do you think this team only currently has a one-win streak right now?
It's been really rough, to be honest with you. This season has started really, really bad. They've had some streak. I mean, they opened up the season 0-7. You can't come out of the gate 0-7, at least not in baseball, and try to correct that momentum. And, you know, they've had some streaks here and there, but overall they've been 3-6 in their last 9 games, and they just are having some big problems. They have a deep rotation. They have a great bullpen, but the problem is they're trailing from the get-go. They're not being able to get any lead built up, and furthermore, they're also struggling in specific innings. They're giving away a ton of runs in specific innings. It lets their opponents pull away. It's just really, really poor planning from this team.
Right, you are. And Alex, slow start, deep team, but having trouble with getting out and competing against these even better teams. What else are you seeing from this team and not them being able to compete? Or is it injuries? Is it new people?
They lost a good amount of players last year, but I think a big thing with baseball is it's just back-to-back games. Like Elias said, I mean, starting 0-7 isn't what you want. Baseball, unlike basketball, football, volleyball, just any other sport, you don't have much time to kind of sit there and think about your losses. You just have to go on to the next game. You kind of have to have like a goldfish brain. Goldfish don't really remember stuff after. Once it happens, it's over. You got to move on. You can't let those games pile up, especially when they're back-to-back every day.
Mentality is goldfish brain. I like that one. They do compete very, back to back. And for them to just like wipe off these losses, all you got to do is just keep swimming.
Exactly.
Well, they did last compete against GCU, and this was actually a game that went well for this team. It wasn't doom and gloom. They were actually able to jump out early. They scored 5 runs in the first 3 innings, and they never trailed this game.
Wow.
It was a bunch of balanced offense where they finished with 9 hits and 7 walks, and it was just constant pressure on the GCU pitching. Someone that had great impact was Torrey Lira. He went 2 for 4 in the home runs, and he reached bases 3 times. This was a standout game for the team, much needed, following that goldfish brain mentality. Let's hope that they take this win and they transfer into a next upcoming match that they're going to have. Did you guys notice anything that it went well for this team, but anything that went wrong for this team at this game?
I mean, look, they have some great players. Let's be honest. Corey Kling, for example, is great relief performance. But like I said, I mean, obviously they beat GCU, but when they're playing some of these higher caliber opponents, they're just not putting up the runs. They're not getting the bases loaded, and the problem is too, like you all said, it all ramps back to they're just not being consistent. They let BYU run all over them earlier in the season. They only won one of their 3 games against Houston. They play 3 games against UCF coming up. I'll be honest with you, they'll be lucky to win one of them because UCF is a solid baseball school. They're just not putting it up against the opponents that they should be putting it up against. They're not playing to the Big 12 caliber that is needed in baseball.
Where we were like towards the middle up of last year, it just seems like we're not being able to compete against them, being that this is us competing in the Big 12 standings, and it is a deep conference, like you said, and to play UCF 3 times, I agree with that. To get 1 win would be a positive, let alone more would be just icing on the cake. Guys, I want to swing over to Arizona women's softball, and they actually too did compete against GCU, and this was another win. So look at us go, 2-0 against the Antelopes up in GCU, up in Phoenix. Alex, can you start us off? Went well right in this match?
I mean, just a bunch went right for Arizona. They started off strong. It was kind of like another mini tournament. They started off strong and kind of kept the momentum going. That's the thing with baseball, softball. Like I said, you need to have a goldfish brain because if something goes wrong, the game doesn't stop for you. The game doesn't have a set ending. It just keeps going. So you got to be able to bounce back from your mistakes, and that's exactly what they did.
Bouncing back, especially when this team, they are 24-8, so they did start this season around that 18th ranked in the top 25, and they are 6-3 in the conference, and this is their 3rd game win streak, and they do really well at home. So I'm curious to see, as a season, we are in the middle of the season, as it continues to even move further down the line, how they do at these home matches, because it seems that is like our strong suit. When people come to Hillenbrand Stadium and the community seems to support this team, and they do really well when they're playing in the Tucson turf. Elias, positives from this game that they had, negatives?
Well, I actually want to piggyback on the point that you made about playing really well at home. They play really, really well at home. They did well in their 2 invitationals. The Bear Down Invitational, they went 6-1. The Hillenbrand Invitational, they went 5-0. They swept BYU when BYU came over here, all 3 games. They have a really, really solid offensive team. They have some really good players. I really like Jenna Sniffen, Reagan Shockey. They're offensive playmakers on this team. They do have problems, though. I'm not going to shy away from it. They have pitching problems. They allow too many runs by their opponents. So many of these matches have been called early because they're just getting blown out. That's not to say they're not, dominating against other teams. It's kind of a give or take, hence the 24-8 record. But really, they need to fix some of those pitching problems if they want to have a chance later on in the season.
They got to improve on pitching, but Alex, I want to swing it to you.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off what you guys said about the home atmosphere. I mean, 20-4 at home is insane. When I went to one of the games to cover against Oklahoma, I mean, that home environment is insane. Chance every second. But we do have to remember, I mean, obviously the early rounds of the tournament are at home, but then soon we get far away from home. So I just want to see how they compete well on the road. I mean, the sample size is small right now. They've only played 5 games. They're 3-2. But that's when it's going to matter the most when you're on the road.
Especially when our Arizona team's athletics, when we train in the summer and we get used to this heat, that's definitely an advantage to our team.
For sure.
These teams that come from all over the country, they're not used to having this much heat at this early in the year. So if there's a way where we can continue to use that to our advantage, kind of like the same way when teams go to play up at elevation and teams are at sea level, it's kind of that same idea. So using our natural resources to our advantage. That was another great win from another great team here on campus. And I want to swing it back to one more team before we take our first commercial break of the night, and that is Arizona Women's Beach Volleyball. And we are doing phenomenal. We are one of the premier programs in the entire country, 15-4, and we've won 7 in a row. We're 7-1 at home and 1-2 away. We just do really well at home. There's no beaches in Tucson, but hey, when we have our little plot of sand, we know how to make use of it.
That's all we need, man. Just that little plot of sand. I mean, like you said, 7-game win streak. They went 4-0 at the Arizona Invitational recently. It's just we dominate the court whenever they come here. And I think that if we just keep doing that as the season keeps going on, I mean, we're going to have such a stacked resume. We're actually hosting the Big 12 championships here. So that just goes to show how strong of a program we are.
I'm curious. Do you have any experience? Like, have you gone to these games? Why do you think we do so well at home?
I haven't been able to catch a beach volleyball game yet, but I really look forward to going one. But I think it's also probably just an environment thing. I mean, Arizona fans, no matter the sport, we always show out for regular volleyball, softball, baseball, basketball, football. The fans show out. So I think that's definitely a big factor, especially at home.
Alex, what do you have to add about this?
I really like this team. They're really well rounded. Anyone remember Carly Cisneros? She was on the regular women's volleyball team. She's playing beach volleyball and she's doing just as well. But they have really solid playmakers. This is a really well-rounded team. They have some really good pairings that produce almost always. Obviously, the the stats show for it, the records show for it. Reagan Holmers with Carly Cisneros, they're always doing really well. Megan O'Meara and Jamie Strite, they're doing really well. They have brought in some different players, and some of those individual match losses have actually been because of some rotation players. But when we stick to those pairings that are always playing really well, that's why we're doing so well. I mean, 5-0 sweep of Tarleton State, 4-1 sweep of UTEP. I mean, it's a very reliable, wide rotation, great pairings, though, real good chemistry. And that's what you need in volleyball, especially beach volleyball. When it's 2-on-2 like that, it's all about the chemistry of who you're pairing up with. And I really like what Arizona's doing.
It starts and ends with that connection on the court. And that game being that we're talking about where we went 3-0 was against San Francisco, and that was here at the Bear Down Beach on campus. And looking up, we have another matchup, and that's going to be against Boise State. They are a really good team. I don't know if you guys know, not a lot of beaches up in Boise, but man, do they have a great program. What do you think that this team has to do in order to compete like such a prestigious university?
Yeah, like similar to Arizona. I mean, there's not many beaches out here, but Boise State is another one of those top beach volleyball programs. I think if they just keep the momentum going from what they've built up and just keep doing what they're doing, they should be able to take down Boise State. But it'll be a close one for sure.
They got to keep riding that wave. Anything to say before we go to a quick break?
No, I really like this team. Like I said, this is a really great beach volleyball team. They're pulling away in individual sets. They're, most of them aren't too close where it's like, okay, well, how reputable is this record? No, they're playing really well, and I like that they're starting to bring in some, new players. Audrey Nieves Papaleo, they just brought her in for their most recent matchup. She had never played on beach volleyball too, and this is a wide-ranging team too. They have freshmen that are playing really well. They have a graduate student that's playing really well. So it's a really wide range, and I think if they just keep having really solid pairings, really good chemistry, and just go into these matchups with the same kind of dominance they've been doing. I know we play at number 5 Florida State later this season too, so it's going to be tough, but I actually have a really good outlook on the rest of the season.
Agreed, totally. Whatever they got going on over there in their game plan, they're doing it right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in for our first installation back of Arizona Roundtable since the break. We're going to go to a quick commercial, but when we come back, we're going to dive deep into Arizona men's basketball in March Madness and their upcoming opponent in Arkansas. Welcome back to the starting lineup, everyone. And as you know, atmosphere and energy is high here on campus as the Arizona Wildcats have been dominating their past 2 matches in March Madness. Their last one being against Utah State in the round of 32, which happened in San Diego, California. I had the opportunity to go out to that match and cover it with student media, and here's a package that addresses that matchup. The Arizona Wildcats just competed in the second round of the March Madness tournament, beating the Utah State Aggies 78-66, with a lead as big as 18 points.
I think the Big 12 is one of the best conferences out there. It prepares us, physically, mentally, through adversity and stuff, because you're playing a great team night in and night out.
The Wildcats came out hot, set the tone, and built a double-digit lead before halftime. But this one wasn't without its moments. Utah State, a Mountain West champion, kept fighting. Lloyd noted his team struggled at times in the second half, especially getting the ball inside, and had to weather that storm. Still, when it mattered most, Arizona responded.
I just think, our guys got to do a little bit better job of figuring it out, and I was kind of, negotiating my timeouts in my head, how I wanted to manage it, what the point differential was. I trust our guys to find solutions all the time. And, they kind of amped up the heat on the press a little bit. I don't think our spacing was great.
The Wildcats dominated the glass, pulling down 22 offensive rebounds, a huge reason they were able to control the game down the stretch. And when things got tight, they trusted their guys. Lloyd praising his players' composure, especially in the late clock situations, calling them winners who continue to find solutions under pressure.
I think Braden's a winner, and he has ultimate confidence. And it's been a joy to coach him. He's a really, you've hit the nail on the head. He's a laid back, kind of unassuming guy, but he has a killer in him.
And that poise, it has been built all season. Playing in the Big 12, one of the country's toughest conferences, has prepared this team for exactly these moments. And now, the next challenge. Arizona's heading to San Jose for the Sweet 16, where they'll face the Arkansas Razorbacks, a physical, high-energy team that will bring a completely different test. Lloyd says cleaning up details like handling pressure and controlling game runs will be the key if the Wildcats want to keep dancing. And with momentum and a fan base expected to travel strong, Arizona isn't just happy to be there. They are looking to make a statement. Reporting for UATV3, I'm Jacob Berries.
Elias, you made a comment about this game, just especially how there wasn't a lot of bench play. What did you see about that in this matchup?
Well, let's back up a second. Utah State. What a tough game this was for Arizona. I'll make this argument. This was the worst first half Arizona had played all season long. They struggled so much to shoot. I think at one point it was 7-24 for shooting. They looked bad. They couldn't make any points. They were struggling in the paint. Interestingly, they were making more three-pointers at one point than Utah State. But yeah, they really had to utilize their star players. Gene Bradley, 39 minutes played. Karchenkov, 36. When we don't consider their five, there's only a combined 35 minutes between everybody else. It's a little rough. Awaka really didn't get much playing time. Del Orso actually got more playing time than Awaka. Dwayne Ersel, 3 minutes. This is a team that normally has such great rotation. It's an 8-man rotation, but they did not utilize their bench. Perhaps they just wanted Bradley. Bradley won them their Big 12 game against Iowa State, but look, they just really struggled. I like what they're doing with their current players. I think Coet Pete's really come into full form in the last few games, but yeah, they did not shy away from just using their main five.
Yeah, this was definitely a game that went very hot at the beginning and then very cold and then back to moments of hot where they eventually ended up on top. Alex, before we dive more into the show, what can you say about this game?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a tough one for Arizona for sure. They couldn't really dominate as much as they usually do. They did shoot a lot more threes, which I think people really undermine. Like, obviously they don't shoot that many threes, but they can still knock them down if they need to. And I think a lot of people definitely underlooked that, and I think that definitely helped seal the game against Utah State, especially one of those last threes at the end to get a big lead taking.
If we're definitely just using the eye test on this one, we were up 18 at one point, and then only at times 4.
Yeah.
That is scary, especially being the #1 team in the country, arguably, maybe even #2, being a team we only lost twice this whole year to a 9th seed, 8th seed. And I think it's less on us being that we didn't perform as well. I think it's just we got to give our props to Utah State. Tommy Lloyd in that presser was talking about that if this was the seed that they were, then they got to restructure how they do this. Utah State being one of the mid-major schools, one of the last ones to be competing. There's no longer any mid-majors moving on to the round of 16. I think this is just really about Utah State, their coaching, and the players that they had seizing that moment at this part of the competition. And Arizona, although there was not a lot of positives in that game, I did see positives, but at times when the gap got so close, Tommy was in the presser, he talked about this, that if he has to do any coaching adjustments at this point of the competition, he hasn't done his job this entire season. So he was basically trusting the men that he had out there at the time of the game and just seeing what was working and then making coaching decisions then. They didn't want to change necessarily anything that isn't part of their game, but what was a big part of their game was that threes. I mean, you either live or die by the three, and so far we've been living by it, and it's been doing us well. Guys, being that we beat Utah State, it may have not been the prettiest win, but a win is a win. We have moved on to the Sweet 16. And that being, we are now going to San Jose, California, and we're competing against Arkansas. Guys, let's break down this game. It's going to happen tomorrow. I'm pumped.
I'm pumped too.
Maybe even scared, but give me reasons why I should be pumped.
I mean, just looking at Arizona itself, I mean, we are one of the most consistent teams, one of the most dominant teams. And I think a big thing with Arkansas is they struggle down low a lot. We have so many good physical scoring players such as Koa Pete, Tobe Awaka, Mo Krivos that everyone could just score. Even our guards like Jaden and Braden, they could score downhill really well. I think when we saw Arkansas play against Florida, all the times they played, it was kind of a battle like that where Florida was so dominant big-wise with Thomas, Howe, and all the other bigs they had on that roster, and no one else could stop them on Arkansas.
Elias, have you watched a lot of Arkansas? What have you seen that has been something that we need to look out forward to about their game?
There's one team I was really scared about Arizona having to play in the West region. It's Arkansas.
Oh, no.
Look, I know we have to, we could potentially play Miami or Purdue but anyways, going into the tournament. But here's the thing, Arkansas is a scary team. However, they have weaknesses. I'm not saying that they're perfect. This is no Michigan. This is no Duke. This is, at the end of the day, they're a 4 seed. They get dominated in the paint a lot. They they're very inconsistent, especially on the defense. They really struggle to slow down star players. And Arizona has so many different star players. That's the thing. Alex just mentioned, I mean, look at those bigs. Koa Pete is really coming to full form at probably the best time for Arizona. Karchenkov's playing really well, so is Krivos. And Arkansas really struggles against star players. JT Toppin, when he absolutely dominated against Arkansas. Cameron Boozer, same thing. When they played early in the season, Arkansas is a great offensive team. Don't get me wrong. They have the 4th most points per game. They are 12th in field goal percentage, 44th in bench points. That doesn't sound very high, but that's surprisingly one of the highest in terms of teams still left. They're really, really solid. 30th in assists. However, Arizona's matching those stats, so don't get confused if you're looking at those statistics. Arizona is going to be facing a really tough matchup, but here's the thing. Arizona is a much more well-rounded team. I think they can take down Arkansas. At the end of the day, it's Darius Acuff, Malik Thomas, and that's about it. I like a few others, but Arizona has a lot more star power than Arkansas can probably handle.
And we actually have some footage that kind of addresses these concerns, and you wanted to bring up basically addressing what to look out for in these games. Alex, what can you say?
Yeah, basically, I mean, each team has their own X factors. Starting off with Arizona, I mean, Braden Burries, the way he can just score from anywhere, shooting threes, knocking down threes. He can get to the rim. He can facilitate very well. I mean, look at this layup right here. My goodness, who else is doing that as a freshman? He can facilitate very well. He can dribble the ball well. He handles well. He can do basically everything you want your star freshman guard to do.
And I see in that, as that's happening, is we've seen a lot of Jaden Bradley actually being this team's leader throughout the season. But it's very, very fascinating to watch it in real time that Braden's actually at the top of the key a lot of time watching the movement happening, and a lot of that movement is coming from Burries. Either it's from the side of the key, top of the key, driving to the rim. He definitely has been that transforming player, and Tommy Lloyd has a huge amount of confidence in him in these rounds of tournaments, especially being a freshman.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw in the video also the defensive bigs with Mo Krivos, an insane block, and we saw the three that was the getaway three for Arizona versus Utah State. 2 minutes left. Braden Burries knocks it down. I mean, he could just score anywhere. But don't count out Arkansas. Arkansas has great X factors, and that main X factor being Darius Acuff Jr. He's averaging 22 points a game. He can also score from anywhere. He won SEC Player of the Year. Look at that layup with the left hand.
Oh my.
He could just get anywhere. He's a big guard. He's not one of these small, little 6-foot guards. He just gets downhill and scores on your best defender.
He does not slow down when he gets to that rim.
Not at all. And I think that's going to be one of the hardest people for Arizona to guard. But Arizona does have great defensive guards, but just look at pulling from almost the logo, boom, and he knocks it down. He can shoot, he can lay it up, and that's all that you need to do when you're such a dominant guard like Darius Acuff.
Alice, I want to ask you about this because I think this is equally as important, not only about the players on the court playing, but these coaches. What can you tell me about our coach and Arkansas coach? I think it's going to be a game that comes down to the coaching.
Oh, for sure. Tommy Lloyd has been playing really, really well. He's coaching his team phenomenal. I mean, look, I know some people are doubting him. Well, everyone's talking about that UNC job, and some people actually have Tommy Lloyd near the bottom, but I don't understand why. Perhaps it's because Tommy Lloyd's the best option for Arizona. He's doing a great job at, like you said, trusting his players. Mm-hmm. This is a team that has stood behind Tommy Lloyd because he's setting them up for a great run. And I think too it shows in the fouling too. I think Arizona is actually one of the lowest one of the lowest teams to foul. They are 72nd, which is again really low when you consider all the D1 schools. And for the whole season, they're actually under 500 fouls total, which is really impressive when you consider Arkansas has almost 100 more than that. I mean, and two, when Arizona was playing Long Island, I know it's Long Island University, we shouldn't think too much about it, but in that first half, they went almost with no fouls. You have to prepare your team for, whether it's Long Island or Arkansas, against playing with composure and playing really, not being too rough. And that's what I worry about Arkansas. Look, I like Arkansas's coach, John Calipari's phenomenal. He's one of the top reasons Arkansas is doing so well. I mean, you hear this year in NCAA basketball, the older coaches are doing really, really well.
It's all that experience.
Exactly. This more so than ever, the old coaches are where it's at. And someone like John Calipari, who has so much experience, it's showing up in Arkansas. But like I said, I just think Arizona is just so much more prepared than Arkansas. Not necessarily in their previous success, but how they're going into these games. Remember, Arkansas hasn't even played this tough of an opponent in March Madness. They played 13 seed Hawaii, which that was a kind of close game in the box score, albeit Arkansas dominated the matchup, and 12 seed High Point. Look, High Point, I get it. It's an underdog story. They're going to play with momentum, but it's High Point at the end of the day. They're not playing, if they had to have played 5 seed Wisconsin, I'd be a lot more confident in Arkansas, but I don't see it. I don't see it. I think Tommy Lloyd has prepared this team so much better than anything Arkansas can prepare themselves.
I think you were talking about this earlier, how you're very much high up on these coaches. Care to fill us in more about that?
100%. I mean, players win games, but coaches win championships. And I think...
why is that a line?
As like a former player myself, you don't want a coach who's really like a dictator, who kind of forces you to play into a certain mold. And that's what both these coaches don't do. They let their players play how they want to play. I mean, talk about Darius Acuff Jr. again. John Calipari has developed some of the most elite guards. If you look at the NBA, a lot of the guards came from Kentucky back when John Calipari was at Kentucky. Like players like Tyrese Maxey, Devin Booker, Jamal Murray, the list goes on. And these coaches are just able to let their players kind of play how they want to play, and that's when you shine the most, playing how you want to play, playing what you trained to play like.
I totally agree with that, and I totally agree with what you said too about these coaches, these older coaches being the ones that have the most experience. Like, we got to remember where Tommy Lloyd came from. He didn't just come to be this successful as a coach in his 5 years so far here, being that he's at Gonzaga for so long, part of that program, building up to the reason why they are such a competitive powerhouse that they are now. I definitely think that this is going to be a strategic coaching game. It's going to be a lot of scoring, being that we have the two best players from each team going at it, being that they're both playing that front court position. Backcourt, I mean, yeah. So, guys, before we move on, how do we feel about our chances moving on and moving? If we win this game, we'll be where we were last year. And that was tough, but we're right there. We're close.
We are right there, but look, this is a different team than last. This is a completely different team than last year. I mean, it's almost unrecognizable. And look, I like where Arizona stands in the bracket. When I saw the bracket released, I actually think the West region is one of the, I don't want to say easiest, But I think for Arizona's sake, one of the best pathways to get to the Final Four and even potentially the finals. I don't want to be in that East region. You know, I don't want to have to deal with Duke or St. John's or Michigan State, and I don't want to be in the Midwest having to deal with Michigan or Alabama. I think we're in a solid spot because look, if we beat Arkansas, there's a potential we could play 11 seed Texas. You know, obviously.
And a story they are. I mean, they were how they came into this bracket so late.
Absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can't underestimate the double-digit seeds, but Texas is what, the only double-digit seed left. And I know they have to, and they could lose to 2 seed Purdue. I like Purdue. They're a very well-rounded team. But Arizona has a great path to make it to the Final Four. Because I think the West region itself is arguably the weakest region of the bracket. Mm-hmm. So I said this going in, and I'll say this now. I think Arizona is the clear favorite still going into the rest of March Madness. And that's not coming from bias. That's just coming from the stats. Arizona is one of the most well-rounded teams. They're putting up the points. They have the second most rebounds per game. They have the 22nd most assists per game. This is a team that is dominating the stat sheet, and you don't even have to watch any of the games to know that. And if you're only watching the games, well, guess what? You see an amazing rotation with star freshmen, and Jaden Bradley's also playing really well. So I really like Arizona's chances to make the Final Four.
I like them. You like them. Alex, how much do you like them?
I like them a lot. You know, backpacking off what Elias said, I mean, that East region is a bloodbath. With your Sweet 16 containing Duke, St. John's, Michigan State, and UConn, I mean, there's so many favorites in that quadrant alone, and there's only one that can come out. So I think definitely we did get a good draw going against Arkansas, going against Texas, going against Purdue. I like Purdue, but I just don't see them pulling through. I mean, this is a great Purdue team, don't get me wrong, but if they couldn't do it with Zach Edey, who was a back-to-back National Player of the Year, I don't think they can do it this year. I mean, they only became a 2 seed because they beat Michigan in the Big Ten tournament. That's what the committee said. Who knows what rank they would have been if they didn't beat Michigan. They were supposed to be a 4 or 5 seed, so it kind of just shows how talented Purdue actually is. And are they really a 2 seed? So I think definitely coming out of that West region, we do have a chip on our shoulders, but you can't let that get to you because any team can lose on any given night. So you can't just think, oh, we have an easier side of the bracket, we can take it a little lighter. No, you need to give it 100% every game until you hold up that trophy.
Mm-hmm. Job's not finished.
Job's not finished.
Guys, thank you so much for breaking that down with me. I had a lot of fun doing it. I'm sure Arizona fans are excited to watch our team play. That wraps up this segment of breaking down the NCAA March Madness tournament as the Arizona Wildcats head to the round of 16 tomorrow night. We're going to take our final commercial break of the night. When we come back, we're going to end off the show and do our special shout-outs. Guys, our show is coming up towards the end of the installation for the night, but before we go, we're going to do our special shout-outs where we're going to shout out people, athletes, anyone that deserves a special shout-out. And for mine tonight, I want to shout out the Arizona faithful, being the alumni, the students, basically anyone who has traveled to San Diego, who's going to travel to San Jose, and possibly even further. You guys have definitely been a reason why this team has continued to move on in the competition. You can feel the atmosphere in the stadiums when the game picks up and slows down. So shout out to you, Wildcats. What about you, Elias? Who does your shout out go out to tonight?
Well, along with shouting out all the Arizona fans, I'd like to shout out NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace. He made a donation of $15,000 to his foundation, the Live to Be Different Foundation, and NASCAR driver Brad Perez, who is a working man. He's going to get his first ever start in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series this season. He needed the funding, and Bubba Wallace wants to support drivers that are not getting these opportunities. They don't have the funding and the sponsorship. So it's really cool to see Bubba Wallace support athletes, not just in NASCAR, not just in motorsports, but all sorts of disadvantaged athletes around the country. It's a really cool foundation, and I love what they're doing.
Thank you so much, Bubba Wallace. That sounds like a really sweet shout out. Thank you for sharing that with us, Elias. And Alex, what about you? Who do you shout out tonight?
My shout out goes to one of the players who made March Madness very entertaining this year, Terrence Hill Jr. from VCU, taking down UNC, dropping 32 points off the bench. They were down by, I think it was around 20 at one point, and coming back to defeat UNC in the first round as an 11 seed, upsetting a 6 seed, and dropping 32 off the bench. Like, dropping 32 is crazy enough, but coming off the bench, that's pretty crazy.
I mean, it is March Madness, but he must have gone in moment, not big, not too big. Way to take advantage of that opportunity, especially
Absolutely.
taking down UNC and being that who they are, and now having to be out this early.
Kind of started the downfall of UNC.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for everyone tuning in tonight for this episode of the Starting Lineup. We'll see you on Monday night where we'll do our Wildcast. Be sure to check out us on social media, which is going to be on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And be sure to subscribe so you can catch up everything and you will not miss out. Thank you so much, Wildcats. Once again, I've been Jacob Aries.
Elias Bonilla.
And Alex Kastner.
Thank you so much. Have a great night. And as always, bear down.